Oh, we're so excited about this afternoon. We are live on Facebook. I am Beth Copeland with Georgia Christian Business Network, and we are putting God back in business. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have an amazing guest here with you. In just a second, I'm going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. But right now, I want to remind each of you that this is the year of higher ground at Georgia Christian Business Network, soon to be Global Christian Business Network. And we are expecting the move of God suddenly in every aspect of our lives. Before we get started, I want to be clear and help those of you that haven't heard and those of you that are familiar with what's the acronym for HIRE. And it goes like this. And it's such a great opportunity how God uses me in this regard to give you a deep dive into the word or the theme for the year. And as we look at higher ground, we understand foundationally that H is a heart of humility. It starts foundationally with making sure that we understand if we want to go higher in Him, the opportunity is how's your heart? Because God, man looks at the outward, but God looks at the heart. So higher ground starts with the foundation of a heart of humility. Humility is before honor. The I is inseparable integrity. Question for you. How does your integrity look on Sunday? Does it look the same on Monday? Because when we go into the marketplace and we go into the business world, it's so important that we walk in inseparable integrity. God wants us to make sure that we're representing Him well. And so as we look at higher, the G is gracious giving, because giving will make the room for you. Your gift shall make room for you. And He wants us to be gracious in our giving. The second H in higher, oh my God, honor Him in your health. And I can't wait to hear this awesome miracle today of how important that is. And I'm going to allow our guests to expand on that more. The last 2 points in the higher, going to higher ground, that of the 6 opportunities and the characteristics that we want to make sure we embrace to experience this higher this year, is the exemplary execution. What is your model for execution in your life? God wants us to have wins, to execute. And some of that we do well. But are we able to be that model for others to follow? Exemplary execution. And where do we land? Listen, money is mentioned so often in the Bible, and money is important. Yeah, sometimes people put the money before the heart of humility, but the R represents the importance of money, but more importantly than that, relationships. Relationships before revenue. And so our guest today, I'm so excited how God's gonna use her to grow us higher in our lives. And so I want to allow an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, Samette George. Welcome to Georgia Christian Business Network platform.
It didn't feel right. I was coughing, I had some chest pains, and I just thought I had COVID. The biopsy revealed that there was a mass on my lung, 4th stage lung cancer. When I got the diagnosis, I said, no tears, just prayers. The doctors at UPMC were on a mission to make me whole again. It just feels like I've been given a second chance. I didn't choose to have lung cancer, but I did choose UPMC.
Good morning.
Wow. Good morning. Awesome. Welcome, Samette George. You know, I love that clip. I want to allow you an opportunity to talk about that clip but before we get into that, I really want to allow you an opportunity to briefly, they're going to learn more about who you are, what you do, and why it's so important for us to know. But right now, I just want you to introduce yourself to our audience. We have people here with us on Zoom, but also we have people over on the Facebook side of the house. And while you do your intro, I'm going to get us live on some other platforms as well.
Okay. My name is Samette George. I'm a deaconess at my church, Trinity Church of Harrisburg. I'm a wife. I'm a mother of 2 beautiful daughters and a grandmother of 3 beautiful princesses. And I just feel blessed that I've been given this opportunity. God has laid a message on my heart about faith and told me that I need to open my mouth and say something. And so it started all with the book.
Oh my God, what an experience you've been through. And I love the clip because it gave us a snippet of what you've been faced with and
Yeah.
how you got to where you are today. So
Yes.
I want to back it up a little bit and maybe break down and unpack some of what that clip, alluded to. There's some history before you got where you were.
Yes,
And
most
so
definitely.
please tell us your story, however God's given it to you to lay it out for us today. We
Okay.
want to hear about where you've been through and how we can glean from that.
Okay. Well, just a little more than a year ago, my family went to Florida. And when we came back, I was doing a lot of coughing, as the video showed, and had a little chest pain. And I just assumed I had COVID. I went to the hospital. They ran lots of tests and they ruled out COVID, but they told me that I did have pneumonia. Told me to take some medicine for a few weeks and it would dissipate. Well, after about 4 weeks, the cough did not go away, nor the chest pain. So I was sent out for some more x-rays and things. And the doctor contacted me and said that I had third stage lung cancer and that the mass was large on my lung and had to be downsized by shrinking through chemotherapy or radiation. And he would be sending me out all week for lots more tests to figure out the best way to shrink it. Well, by the end of the week, he called me back and said, the last of my test results came back. You don't have third stage lung cancer. You have fourth stage lung cancer, and it's already gone to your brain. And I need to let you know that it's not reversible, curable, or survivable in any way, and that I pretty much had about 6 weeks to 6 months to live.
My Lord, my Lord. And that has been how over a year ago, right?
Yep. Yes, just
What's the time
a
frame?
little more than a year
A
ago
little more than a year.
that I got the
And I'm
diagnosis.
talking to you right now on this podcast, right? So
Yes,
that
yes,
six
yes,
weeks
yes, yes,
expiration has expired. That's expired. Oh my
yes,
God,
yes,
this is just amazing. And
yes.
and I love what you said in the clip. You wouldn't allow yourself. You said no tears,
Just
prayers.
prayers, just prayers. And that's how it all
Was that your
started.
immediate response?
Yes. I initially called my sisters, my family, and my pastor, and he told me that we need to start doing some praying and fasting right away. So we went through a week of fasting that was simply just a half an hour prayer in the morning, followed by juice, and then a half an hour of prayer in the evening, followed by just fruit. And at the end of that fast, the morning after the fast, when I woke up, my pillow was wet, my eyes were crusted shut, and I couldn't quite figure out why my pillow was wet or why my eyes felt like that. And I tell people a lot of times I have hot flashes, so to have a wet pillow isn't out of the question for me. But I couldn't figure out why my eyes were crusted shut. And after a few minutes of going to the bathroom and cleaning myself up, I remembered, wait a second, I was crying in my sleep. And then a few more minutes went by and I was like, why was I crying? I shared that with my husband. He said, why were you crying? I said, I don't know. A couple more minutes went by and I realized, wait a second, I had a dream. Another 15, 20 minutes went by and I was trying to figure out what the dream was. And the next thing I know, I realized, wait a second, I had a dream that God spoke to me. Before the hour went by, it was very clear that it was not a dream. God did not speak to me in a dream. God spoke to me in my sleep. He called out my name. He said, Sam, this is not about you. It's all about me. I need to use you to let my light shine through, to be a beacon to draw others to my kingdom. There are too many that do not believe I'm still on the throne and still in the miracle making business. I just need to use you. So from that
Oh
point,
my God.
yeah, from that point, I first I was afraid to tell anybody that God spoke to me in my sleep. I didn't want them to think I was crazy. But after about 3 hours, I decided to share it with my husband. That what came to me is that God really spoke to me in my sleep. It was the real deal. And so right after that, I was surprised my husband embraced me right away. He said, Sam, I believe everything you're saying. If there's one person God has spoke to, it's you. I've seen you been favored so much. I know what you're saying is the truth. So I started going out, having lots of tests done to figure out how this was going to shrink. And unfortunately, the first couple of doctors I ran into, the very first one told me there was no God. When I told them I'm good, they wanted to send me to a psychologist. They said I was in denial. And then I spoke to another doctor. Another doctor said, I need to settle down and let them calculate my days left on this earth. So right away, I knew I was at the wrong place. So I did finally find a doctor. Well, I don't know if I told you, it went to my brain. So I went to a brain doctor to look at it. He was just amazed. He said, I don't understand how you are not having any symptoms. He showed me the x-ray of my brain. He showed me the tumor. He showed me little spots all over that showed it was spreading. He said, what I don't understand is I've never operated on anyone who has not had a headache, a seizure, dizzy spells, blackouts, stumbling.
None of that.
He said, literally, where it's sitting on your brain, you literally should be blind. So he ran lots of
Oh my
tests.
God.
Ran lots of tests to perform brain surgery, called me the night before to ask me if I was ready. I said, yep, I'm all prayed up. I told you God is just using me. He said, I'm glad to hear that, because the last of my tests came back and now it looks like it's compromised your spine. So you're going to have emergency spine surgery like 6 days later. And the miracle of the operations, they told me that I probably would sleep the first day or two after brain surgery. Then I'd be in the hospital. Then I'd have to go to rehab to learn how to speak again and walk, because my words will be slurred and my walking will be stumbled. Unbelievably, when they came in a few hours later, my kids were there, my husband was there, we were laughing, we were talking, and they just didn't quite understand it. And they called the doctor in. He did kind of lots of checkups and just assumed that I was pushing through the anesthesia, that eventually when it all wore off, things would kick in. He came in the next morning. I was up walking around. He had been called by the other nurses. They're like, we don't understand. She's up, she's talking, she's walking. He came in and did a few more tests, and I'm going to watch you today and just see what happens. Came in the next morning and said, I just signed your discharge papers. You can go home. And I said, what about the rehab? He said, you have already surpassed the expectations to be released from rehab. So we're letting you go home. I literally left out the hospital, went to the giant grocery store to get my prescription. I didn't want to sit in the car by myself. So I told my husband, just take me in with you. If I start getting dizzy or you need to prop me up, I'll do that. But I was fine. While I waited for the prescription, I did some grocery shopping and I went home and cooked dinner and never really even went to bed from it. The following week, I went back and they had to cut my throat to get to my spine to correct it. They told me I wouldn't be able to speak for a week and I would have to drink out of a straw for about 3 weeks. And unbelievably, when they came in, the next morning when I woke up, I wasn't sure whether I could talk or not. No one was around. So I said, how can I tell if I can't talk? So I decided to say a prayer and it came out crystal clear. Next thing I know, they brought my food in where I assumed it was going to be a liquid diet like they told me, and they forgot and brought me bacon, French toast, and eggs. And I was so hungry from not eating, from dealing with all the surgeries, that I just said, I'm going to just take a little ball and suck on it and see if it goes down. It just slid down. I did it a second time, it slid down. Did a third time. By the time I got to the third ball, I just literally took the plate of food. I cut everything up and ate it. By the time the nurse came in and with the liquid diet, she was like, where's the food? I pretty much, see if I can show you, I pretty much cleaned the plate. This is what they brought me in to eat. When they came back with the liquid diet, I cleaned the plate. They didn't understand. They called the doctor, told the doctor she's eating, she's talking. The doctor came in. He said, I heard about last week what went on with you. He said, what's your pain level like? I said, I'm not really in any pain. He said, I just cut your throat last night. You have to have a pain level. I said, no, it feels a little itchy. I said, but I don't feel anything. He said, I don't understand this. He went out the room, came back and said, I just signed your discharge papers. You can go home. He said, your vitals are like we're not doing anything to you. So I went home, started chemo about the following week, where I got the first miracle, where the doctor called me, the brain surgeon, apologizing, saying, this has never happened to me before in my life. He said, I feel so bad that I gave you that diagnosis of 4th stage brain cancer. He said, the pathology report just came back and it shows that there's no cancer in your brain. Therefore, we're going to downgrade your cancer from a 4 to a 3, which now we're willing to treat you. Up until then, they pretty much were calculating days and just said they could just extend my days and keep me comfortable. So I went through the 3-month chemo. At the end of the chemo, I went through that remarkably. I didn't have any problems. They told me I would lose my hair, lose weight. That didn't happen, not even a pound. That I'd be fatigued and things. And I just kind of walked, God held my hand and walked me through it. And at the end of that, it was time to get back to my lung where the mass was. So they did a, biopsy to see if the mass had shrunk. And when they went to do the biopsy, he called me the next day and said, I know I did a biopsy, but we need to call you back one more time. We think we saw something else and we're not sure. So right away, I'm already feeling like Job, things coming one after another. When I went back the next day, he said, Sam, we don't understand what's going on with you. You have a very strange anatomy. You have what we call not uncommon. Hello? You're supposed to have 2 lobes in your left lung, an upper chamber and a bottom chamber. He said, and believe it or not, when we went and did this last biopsy, we don't know what happened, but you have 3 lobes in your chamber now. It's almost like another lobe just grew overnight. We've been working on you for a year and never saw this, but it's our consensus that we are going to go through with the lobectomy, but where we thought we were going to take 1 lobe and leave you with just 1, which would have been doable. Now it looks as though that we are going to take 1 lobe and you're still going to be left with 2. I got the lung surgery, and after the lung surgery, they said I'd have to be on oxygen. I'd have to do I have some breathing, respiratory therapy and things like that. They came in hours later. And when they came in hours later, they made it very clear they didn't understand how my breathing was so strong. They ran a bunch of tests, came back in and said, we just signed your discharge papers. You're the first outpatient like lung surgery that we've ever done. You can go home. And I left from each surgery, went right to the grocery store, did the same thing, had my prescription filled, went grocery shopping and went home and cooked dinner.
Oh my gosh. I'm just listening and there's so much to unpack here. There is so much to unpack. First of all, I want to say thank you for hearing the voice of God. Regardless of what circumstance that we find ourselves, I believe wholeheartedly. And I told some ladies, I had like about 30 women join me in December for my 65th birthday. And they took me, we went to Capitol Grill and we had a wonderful evening. But I went to give them gifts, but they gave me like a 15-inch Apple computer and it was just amazing. But the thing that I wanted to give them is this, and I thought of you this morning and I wanted to make sure it was on my desk here because you represent this to me. I wanted to give them the theme of joy for this year as we go higher. Any way you turn this thing, I picked it up at a Hobby Lobby, but any way you turn it, what does it spell?
It's joy.
Joy. That's what, when I heard your story and I was praying about, I knew I wanted you to tell your story today, God, but how would you have me interact with her? And he told me, use your joy model today. Because I've heard your story, but I was sitting up here forgetting I'm hosting this podcast and all into your story all over again. And I got to facilitate a portion because it is amazing to hear this story in this day and time. It's such a relevant and timely opportunity for us because life is challenging. Life is crazy. And then it fits so much with our higher opportunity because the second H is all about honoring him in your health. But the reason I say joy, because regardless of how you turn my life, will I find joy in it? Because the joy of the Lord, Nehemiah 8:10, the joy of the Lord is my strength, your strength. And so that's why I start off with thank you. And then for your immediate response, if God spoke to you, no, 90, I'm talking to the audience. If God spoke to you, hold on to what God said.
Yes.
That's what you did. When God spoke to you
Yes.
in the night, even from the I can't wait to read your book. I can't wait to get to that part too. And usually I would have done it before the show, but I've heard so much and we've talked and exchanged so much. But today we're going to give copies away as well. But
Wow.
the opportunity is that's significant.
Yes.
The dried eyes to remind you and to process that God had spoken to you. And
Yes.
all I can hear doing that when you said it, especially this time, is just how you must have been overwhelmed that the Father was speaking directly to
I felt
you.
so
And
honored. I felt so honored when people ask me all the time as I was going through it, how do you feel? How do you feel? And I would tell them, I felt honored that out of all the people in the world he could have choose, out of not just the people in my hometown or my state, or out of all the people in the world he could have selected to help him spread his word, to help draw others to his king, he picked me. And
yeah,
I just, all I can say is I just felt honored. And I try to speak that whenever I let people know that we have to think about what God does. And I kept thinking, why did it happen in my sleep? Why did it happen in my sleep? And I realized that God is so big. He is so magnificent that I really don't think that you can take him speaking to you. It almost is like you have to be somewhat in a calm state to be able to take that without, because it's just too magnificent.
yeah. And even from your saying that, um, I'm thinking of Moses at the burning bush. It was just amazing.
Yes.
I'm sure, for you to even phantom God is speaking to me direct. I mean, not that we don't hear from God. I hear from God. We hear from God in different aspects, but this was such a major opportunity. The prognosis did not look good at all from the man's standpoint. But how will you negotiate your faith?
First of all, I think about, stories that my mother has always told me. Then we have so many heroes and sheroes in the Bible. I thought a lot about the woman with the issue of blood, going around 12 years, spending money, getting all kind of tests. But when she knew that God was coming, Jesus was coming to her town, she was determined, if I have to get on the ground and crawl and touch that dirty hem, her faith was so strong that she believed God doesn't have to lay hands on me. Jesus doesn't have to hear my story. Jesus doesn't have to pray over me. If I just touch the hem, that's how strong she had, that bold faith, that she just knew that's all it would take. So I started trying to stand on some of the promises. There's a lot throughout the Bible that tell us, and one that I love is, it is written, eye have not seen, ear has not heard, neither has entered the heart of man the plans God has for those who love him. And what that basically means is no one has seen that last report. No one has heard that last report, and God ain't laid it on no one's heart to tell you what that last report is. And there was just all kind of just scriptures, I shall live and not die. Heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. There's just so many things that you can stand on that just continue to give me strength day after day. I woke up every single day thanking God for that cancer. And people don't understand that, but every day I thanked him for it, because I knew I believed in my heart that he was using me. And I believed that there was going to be a testimony in the end. One of the most beautiful things of this is that every doctor I went to, every technician I went to, I let them know when they would say, "Oh, we're so sorry to hear you have cancer." And I would tell them, I just got a diagnosis. God is just using me. And at the end of it, I had UPMC, you saw the commercial, they reached out to me and said, "We want to talk to you. You're like this miracle case. You've been reported to us by doctors, nurses, technicians of this woman who refused to say that death was going to it was going to be a death sentence for her." And they just wanted to know at that point, they said, "We want to know whether you will put a testimony on. We heard that when you were in the chemotherapy room, when you were supposed to be taking your breaks in between, you were going around praying for other people." Because sometimes, if you've ever been in the chemo ward, some people look so hopeless. They look like they've given up. And I just use that opportunity to let people know that It doesn't have to be. You have to have faith. And so after meeting with UPMC, they said, well, a testimony will be good, but now that we heard your story, we want to put a video on our website. So I said, okay. So they said, okay, you have to meet with the video team. They're all the way in Pittsburgh, which is about 4 hours from us. I said, well, that's kind of far. They said, we can do it via Zoom. After meeting with them, they heard my whole story and they said, your story is so amazing. They said, we're going to call you back next week and let you know how we're going to swing this video that's going to be on our website. We'll let you know when we're going to shoot it, how we're going to work it around your story. They end up calling me back not a week later, but the very next day. They said, we have talked about you all afternoon. We already verified everything you said, and we want to do a full-fledged commercial with you, your husband, and your grandkids. And even after the commercial was done, they said they felt so much positive energy from the no tears, just prayers, that they laid out a whole campaign called A Life-Changing Medicine, where they were acknowledging my faith. So right now, my area, all over Pennsylvania, I'm on billboards. I'm on the side of bus panels. I'm in bus shelter stations. I've been in every magazine you can imagine around here, talk shows, because people are understanding now that faith is real. There is something to it. I used to tell people it's the best kept secret, but for us who are saints, we know it's no secret, but we need to learn how to tap into it, because there's nothing too big or too small for Jesus.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm thinking you were talking about the moment at the hem of his garden. Your faith has made you whole. God knows who he's choosing, just like he pointed to Job. You reference Job a lot. God pointed to Job. He said, have you considered my faithful servant Job? Years ago, when I read that, I said, oh my God, because he knew what he had placed within me. This is what I want to say to those that are listening. Your trial may not be physical, but it may be. It may be an opportunity for the most challenging opportunity in your life. But God said, where's your faith? Because he points to us according to, it's not about our opportunity, our capabilities. It's about God's great ability. And will you be willing vessel to allow him to use you, as Samette did? She was a willing vessel. You told us that you had just returned from a vacation with your family, with your children, your family, your grandkids, the three precious. I know what you mean. Don't you just love it? Oh my gosh, I love it. And but the opportunity is, you could have said, oh, maybe that's why God allowed us to have this trip. It's time for me to go. Are you going to align with the truth? Are you going to align with what the man is saying? And I'm not saying doctors are so important. They were essential to your healing, but they were not the author and the finisher of your faith.
And when that was God. I made sure I let them know I'm going to be obedient to what you say I need to do, because I know I prayed that God would put the right people in my pathway. So I know you were put here to help me, but understand this is not going to be a death sentence for me. The faith thing is so big. In fact, on their website, if you Google Sam G Faith Rewarded, there's a big article on the hospital website where they're acknowledging, the name of the article is Faith Rewarded. And for traditionally people like doctors and hospitals, they're normally not too big on miracles. But for them to acknowledge that it was my faith that healed me, I think that is like, I think it's huge. I think it's huge. In fact,
I love it. Yes. For science to come into the understanding of what some of us have known, well, of course, 2,000 years ago is, plus over, the opportunity is that, you're finally catching up, and you're finally given some credibility to the truth of faith and how faith, faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. We know that from Hebrews 11:1. And but the faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So we know that, right? But how do I get the faith? Is Romans 10:17. It comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. But the thing that I think, and this is where I'm so excited too, 11:6 of Hebrews says, without faith, it is impossible to please him.
Mhm.
You know, that those that come to God must believe that he is, and that he is what? A rewarder to those that diligently
Yes.
seek him. And
Amen.
when I hear you, I call it shooting bullets. You were shooting bullets, you know. I shall not die but live and declare the works of the Lord. You know, God is giving me. He was the sustainer of my life. When you speak truth to things, that we walk by faith and not by sight. And when I hear all of this, it just ignites my spirit. And I was talking to my daughter and my husband about you, maybe about a week or two ago. But the opportunity that I recalled is, we were laughing because my daughter had taken me about 5 years ago for a colonoscopy, and you know they put you under and everything. And when I came out, the doctor was giving me his report, and they probably thought I was groggy or something, but he told me I had diverticulitis, and I said, "No, I don't."
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
mean, I was shocked at this man. He said, and you probably, and he looked past that, I guess, anesthesia, whatever. He
Mhm.
said, and you probably, when you eat strawberries, you know, they have little seeds and you probably get an upset. I said, that's my favorite fruit. No, I do not. You know, and I mean, the more he told me, I probably appeared, and that's not my style, but I probably appeared hostile to him.
Yeah.
And they had my daughter, they said they wanted to send me over to the hospital immediately. Mary Singh, is that someone you know? Because they're persistent. And
Yes, she's actually one of my students in my
uh,
class.
okay, awesome. I want to admit her, and I want to allow, but sometimes we
Yes,
get a lot of spam, and this is going
yes,
too good, and God is
yes,
getting too much glory. And
yes,
I want to be careful, but I do want her to be able to come in
yes,
if she's legit. But
yes,
the opportunity was, and they were telling me about how nuts. I said, hey, they top the fruit. I love nuts, you
yes,
know. I said, no way. And so
yes,
he got very frustrated with me and asked me, because they felt like that I needed to go over from the clinic that I was in over to the hospital, the local hospital, immediately to do this dye and all of this stuff. And
yeah,
was well, are you at freezing to go? I said, no, I'm going. And
yeah,
I didn't forgotten about that until we were talking about you. You
yeah,
do not have to accept, but I
yeah,
do believe that you need to go through, because that's your testimony. You know,
yeah,
that is your testimony.
yes,
And so I'm just so excited that you're releasing people to be free, to walk
yes,
in your faith, even when you're not clinically um credible in the state. We're
right,
not doctors.
right,
You know,
right,
they've gone
right,
to school, they've earned their credentials.
yes,
We
yes,
believe that they know what they're talking about,
yes,
but we
yes,
also believe that we have a higher power, if
yes,
some people's call it, but we know that we serve the God of the universe,
yes,
and
yes, yes,
he's still in the miracle working business. And you don't know how personally this is important for me to hear you just
yeah,
declaring this word of truth
yeah,
today. It is
yeah,
so urgent. Keep
and
talking to us. That, but let
and
me tell
what
you a
you
couple of things here on the Zoom. I love Lisa Bailey. She is one of our GCBN faithful members, and she said this is an amazing blessing. I have never heard someone say they are honored to be picked to be ill and recover to give testimony of God's healing power. And I had to highlight that right now. And I agree, Lisa. That's
yeah,
some of that Job stuff.
yeah, yeah,
God
it is,
give his life and he take it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But
yes,
God saw fit to choose Job, and he restored him. And
yes,
that's what I see now. When I see you on this screen looking as beautifully and as healthy and as well as you are, that's God's glory. And I have to highlight my dear friend. I don't know, Debbie chatted to me, Deborah Waters and I have been friends for eons. We remember when we were size fours and I was a six. She was always smaller. But we've been friends forever. And she saw fit, and I got something to share with people right now. She saw fit to connect me to you. You know, you're first cousins, I believe, right?
yes, yes, we
Okay.
are.
And Debbie said, you need to talk to Beth. And she said, Beth, you need to talk to Samette. And don't be afraid to connect people. And I know I had an opportunity when you know somebody and you know their credibility and you know the other person's and it's a good fit, you want to do that. You want to connect people that are going to propel forward the kingdom message. And when we connected, it was like I sent Debbie a text immediately. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you. And then your husband and you saw fit to join Georgia Christian Business Network, currently named, but we are going global. And I showed you the map earlier where we're represented already outside of Georgia in like 7 or 8 other states. So thank you for seeing value in what we do and agreeing and committing to be a member. And even we've got to get you greater opportunity to get involved, but you're in such demand, you know, all over your area there, you know, on billboards and such. So
I'm ready,
but thank you
to come
is
to,
what
I'm
I'm
ready to come to Georgia. I have a sister, in fact, who lives in Athens. In fact, she was one of the second or third people I called, and she was one who told me right away. She said, "Sam, don't receive that in your spirit." She said, "Don't receive it." And I, as soon as she said that, I was like, "Stevie, you are exactly right. I'm not. It's what I was feeling, but just your confirmation that I'm just supposed to, like you. I didn't want to come off sounding cocky to the doctors, but it was like, I'm sorry, I just don't believe what you're saying, pretty much." And the one doctor was so beautiful. I got to ask all I had 3 doctors, an oncologist, a brain surgeon, spine surgeon, and a lung surgeon. And everybody said they believed in God, but I never got a chance to ask the lung surgeon. For some reason, it was never the right time. And I honestly didn't get to ask him until about 4 months after the surgery. I went back for my checkup and I said, "Dr. Moritz," I said, "I never got the chance to ask you." I said, "If you believed in God, I respect the fact that you let me pray over your hands before you operated, but I never got to actually ask you that question." I said, "Do you believe in God?" And he said, "Well," and the minute he said, "Well," I thought, okay, here it comes. He said, "No." He said, "When you've had so much science poured into you, as I have, it's hard to believe this because everything that's going on with you right now is totally against science. But I've been following your case from the beginning. And when I saw what happened with the brain surgery, when I saw what happened with the spine surgery, when I saw how you came through the chemo," he said, "I turned it over. I turned it over." So to me, to have, if I just led one person, if I did a doctor, and he was the one who reported me and said, "You got to talk to this woman about her faith." And every time I go in, he says, "You have made us look so good." He said, "Sam, it was truly your faith." He said, "There was nothing we could do for you." He said, this is just unbelievable." And I said, "We serve an unbelievable God."
Oh gosh, do we ever? And I love it. He gives the foolish things to confound the wise. You know, I'm one of my life verse is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all of thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And I hear acknowledgement after acknowledgement, acknowledgement after acknowledgement. I hear what you're saying. And so wisdom is all over you. You know, I love Debbie said, a test is a testimony.
Yes.
That's all. It's a test. It's a testimony. It's an opportunity, regardless. Romans 8:28. And I know people said there are times that you shouldn't even reference Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good. Even, and I have to say it like this, even unto death. And I know some people feel inappropriate, but what we have to understand is it true for some areas or is it not true for others? In this time, you had an option, you had a choice. You knew there had to be more. Your sister confirmed it, your husband confirmed. I believe that you heard from God, Samette.
Yeah. And I was
everybody around you said, not this time, not this time. It was greater purpose. And that's what this sign up here, I don't know if you can see it, but I keep it up here. And it says, mountains are calm. Yes. I believe this is a year of higher ground, but I also believe that we're going to be tested, that we're going to have trials. We're going to have situations that come up that are unfavorable. There's going to be opportunities where The enemy will try to get us to doubt God, to doubt who he is and that he's able. But God, I know you can do it. But this one right here is a little bit hard.
Yes.
Will you trust me?
I was so
Yeah.
determined that as I went through, I carried this vision board. There's 2 scriptures on here. One says, and to the God of all grace who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, himself will restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. Then at the bottom it says, heal me, Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved. I carried this around, and I made everybody, from the person who signed me into the hospital, to the person who brought me my food, to the person who was the anesthesiologist, to all the doctors. I wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page, that our goal was I was not going to die. I was going to be healed. And I made sure everybody signed it. So you can see it's probably, I never counted. It's probably about 70 signatures on here. But I wanted to make sure that people knew that this wasn't no game. This was no joke. This is the real deal. And I need to make sure you're on board.
Wow. Wow. And look at that testimonial. 1 Corinthians 1:27, definitely. But God giveth the foolish things to confound the wise. I have to repeat that again. And I used to go around, and I'm going to start back saying, I'm a foolish thing. Will you be a foolish thing for God? Yes. I mean, taking that board around, and look how well represented and that's your testimony. Yeah. That's your testimony. I think of the rocks, and the 12 tribes are representation of the rocks now. And that right there has history. That is like, I'm telling you, that's the validation of what God did. Oh, we're running out of time, but I just can't wait. I need some more from you. I need to ask you some pointed questions here throughout the process. And this is for our edification. And for those that are listening over on the Facebook side of the house, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that will watch the replay, I know that you're probably asking a question and saying, what was your thought process throughout? I see the board and you're going in for your surgeries, but at those quiet moments where no one's around, where the enemy would try to attack, what was your response? What was your positioning?
All I know is in the end, I just wanted to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. I wanted to be obedient to the word of God, because yes, the devil did get busy. I had to pray with my pastor about having some tongues bridled. As I was speaking this faith, there were people who said, yeah, but my grandmother had cancer and that didn't work for her. She died, or this happened, or yeah, they tried that technique, where I kept getting that kind of thing, or I would get people who just weren't in the same mindset. And one of my best friends, and I love her so much, and most of the people thought they were helping, but she called me and said, I got something I'm going to send you in the mail, so watch for Amazon, they're going to send you something. And she sent me like 5 cancer scarves, just assuming that my hair was going to fall out. And people were jumping the gun. They were getting a little ahead of God. And I'd come home, sometimes there'd be books in my doorway just about how to transition. It was just crazy. And I had to talk to my pastor, and he said, we need to pray on some things so that only positive energy comes, because the devil is trying to get you sidetracked with what's going on. He's trying to get you off of your mark. He's trying to take you away from the purpose that God has for you. And so that's what we had to do. But through it all, I just kept telling people, no tears, just prayers. That's it. Don't cry. Don't cry. I'd rather have a prayer than a tear.
I've got to say something for those that are listening. We have to walk with this. Protect your space. When you are believing God, if God has given you a vision for wholeness, for health, whether it's in your physical body, whether it's in your vision for your business ownership. And some may be saying, Beth, why didn't you have her as a guest on Wellness Wednesday? This would have fit more appropriately. I think it fits right here. And this is the early slot I could get her in. And I wanted her in quickly. So Rose and I said, this is it. But I have to tell you that when I tell you this, and Debbie just pops up with this, oh my God, this is God. See, we've been friends. How many years have we been friends? Debbie, chat that for me. But she put this out here, and you feel free to come on camera if you want to say something, Debbie. But she says, as my friend Beth says, God has a plan and you are a part of it. You are most definitely a part of it. Listen, I got my God Has a Plan mug out here today.
Oh,
God has a
wow.
plan, Jeremiah 29:11, and on the back, and it says, and I am a part of it. Okay. And Debbie's like, I want one. Yes, we do have these available. Okay. And so, yeah, for $25, you can get a mug from us. So, yeah, for definite. But the opportunity is this, that I want to tell you that you are a light barrier, that God chose you. And I know that you don't like to say, well, I need to charge people for this and that. But I want to tell you, because I followed Job's story and I was thinking about you, God is going to restore you. So I want you to be open to receive. I just got to tell this. God's put it on my heart. Open to receive. Open your hands, because God said he's a rewarder to those who diligently seek him. As you go out spreading the word, you don't have to worry about it. God's got you covered. You, your family, your husband, your family are going to be blessed.
Amen.
And
Thank you.
exceedingly, you were already. Job was doing fine before God allowed all of that to come. Before God pointed to him
Yes.
and said,
Yeah.
allow him, because I know her. And when we go through situations in life, God told me when I was going through some challenging situations, relational with women. I used to say, Samette, I didn't do women. I'm the Atlanta chapter director for the National Association for Christian Women Entrepreneurs. And I love to see women win. But I was going through so much stuff with them. I said, oh no, oh no. Corporate days way back, managing and such. But God said, to whom much is given, much is required of you. And the thing that we have to understand is that God allows these challenges, because now I embrace love as my superpower.
Yes.
And I mean, it's my superpower, and it can't pick and choose who I apply it to. In fact, it's most effective with the unlovable. And God chose you, as he's chosen so many of you that are listening or watching the replay, to do great things that you don't know that you can do. But you've got to side with God and believe God,
Yes.
because the challenges will come. There will be people that will speak against you and try to send you how to prepare for death, when God's preparing you for greater life.
Yes, yes.
I
And
know.
one thing,
Yeah.
Beth, one thing I wanted to say is, when I was writing this book, it initially started with me just writing about what I call the most miraculous season of my life. But as I was writing it, I started thinking back over my life. And I remember that, wait a second, this isn't the first time God showed up for me. When me and my husband went to conceive our first child, after a few weeks, I went to have an ultrasound, and they told us that they're sorry to let me know that I had what they call blighted ovum, and that the baby had expired, and that the baby had died, but I'm young enough, I should be able to try again. I went to church, and I told my church what happened. The reason I told them is because 4 weeks prior, my husband and I were in church giving a testimony that we're pregnant. So I had to let them know, don't expect my stomach to start swelling up. So when I told them what had happened, they laid hands on me and prayed on me that we would quickly be able to conceive again without a stumbling block. And when I went back to the hospital the following week to have what they call a D&C to take that material out, prior to the D&C, they did another ultrasound, and the heart was beating. My daughter's 32 years old now. Then I started thinking back when I was 11 years old. My mother, I had a scrape on the playground, and my mother gangrene set in. We're talking 55 years ago, and I was quarantined. I couldn't see anyone, not even my mother or father, for 5 days. And that basically they gave my mother the option of amputation at 11 years old or death. And somehow God had a visit for me then. I remember being in the room by myself, and after I got home, my mother said, I can't imagine you being by yourself so long like that. I said, well, I was okay. I had the one nurse who monitored me 24/7 because they thought I was going to slip away. And then I had the other nurse who was kind of mean, always gave me shots and fussed at me for not eating my food and made me take naps. And my mother said, I think we should go down and take some flowers to the nurse. So when we go down to take flowers to the nurse, The nurse's station says, oh, these are nice. We'll give them to nurse so-and-so. And I remember saying, no, not her, not the mean nurse, the other nurse. And they were like, the other nurse. And my mother explained, yeah, she had a really nice nurse, blah, blah, blah. And they told my mother, when your daughter was here, she was delirious most of the time. Her fever was not even recordable, but there was only one nurse and she was in and out. We don't have a budget to allow a nurse to stay with someone 24/7. And I was probably in my late 20s or early 30s before I realized that was an angel. She never spoke to me, but whenever I was feeling sad, she would just smile and I would feel better. And honestly, whenever the mean nurse would turn off the TV so I couldn't watch Dick Van Dyke after lunch, that other nurse would literally get up and turn the TV back on for me. That's it. So God has been
Girl,
good.
you know,
So
you're going to make me cry on this show today. Oh, you know that.
I could have left this world when I was 11 years old, but I realized now that God had a purpose for me. And all throughout my book is about 11 chapters of how I had visitations, how there was a way made out of no way possible. Just time after time from 11 years old up to now when I'm 65.
Oh, I love it. Speaking of that book, we have got to give away some copies of it. It is Few Are Chosen. Oh my God. Oh my God. I love it. So at Georgia Christian Business Network, I want you to, this is what you've got to do. If you're on the show today, and I want you to go to our Facebook group. You got to join our Facebook group on Facebook. Group, go to Georgia Christian Business Network Facebook group and join it. Okay, I'll put the link here. But the opportunity, if you just chat some one word about what you took away from this, and I love what April Minger, she's a faithful GCBN member over on the Facebook side of the house, and she said she gave me permission to have this on Take Charge Tuesday. She said this is perfect for Take Charge Tuesday. She said it's a take charge of the narrative and believe God. And that's it. She's so profound how God gives her things. But I love it. It is appropriate for Take Charge Tuesday. What we have to walk away with is every time that God gives you for a vision for life, listen, don't let somebody come steal it and give a pronouncement of death. You know, I know that God did this today. Not only did he do this for you and your family and for your life and all of those you've ministered to, but also for the GCBN family as well, for you to be connected, for you to value us with your testimony and even be a member, because there's so much there. Thank you for my friend Debbie. She says since 1979, because when she lived in Atlanta, we saw each other a lot more. But the opportunity, I've been there, and there's opportunities where God connects people for lifetimes, and you can't get away from it because there's purpose in it. And I don't know that God didn't connect us back then for such a time as this. Don't be afraid to introduce people when you have greatness. Know first of all that you're valued and you're great. That's Debbie. But she saw opportunity to connect you and I and to bring us together for such a time as this. This is what you call kingdom. Great opportunity. We would love for you guys to subscribe to our newsletter. Send us an email at info@gcbnetwork.com. We want to add you to our newsletter. We want to invite you to visit our website, gcbnetwork.com. We are putting God back in business. Not only do we look at the opportunity to grow you through business, gleaning business acumen, through our Take Charge Tuesday business power call, but also we follow that up on Wednesdays with a Wellness Wednesday platform that's a host for myself included from the coaching standpoint. But we've got licensed clinical social workers, therapists that are licensed, and opportunity to talk about various subjects to help you to undergird your business. So because we're focused on being emotional, spiritual, mentally well. And so that opportunity for that hour platform. And then we have other opportunities. We've got our April 6th event coming up. We're so excited. It's a members benefit Ursel Charles. He is the VP of Global Training and Development for Dale Carnegie, and he is going to facilitate virtually and in person an opportunity for you to glean on steps to obtain into your hire, first in him, and then how you can apply it in life on April 6th. For members, totally free. For guests, you're welcome to join us. And I think it's like $40 or so to be able to participate. I am so excited about what we're doing here. God Golfing Girls, August 16th through the 18th at Lake Lanier is coming up. It's imminent. I know I told you it's going to be up for sale for the early bird last week, but I promise you this week will not end without that happening. We had a few opportunities that we had to work through, but we're almost through those right now. So expect to sign up quickly for the early bird because it's not going to be out there very long. Okay. And if you're a GCBN member, you automatically get a discount, but it's an investment in yourself. We had like 85 plus, right, Lisa, members in attendance last year. And it is an amazing 3-day weekend for women. I'm so excited, Samette. You've got to close us out with some powerful tips. Give us 2 or 3. We're a little late started, so we got a couple of minutes for you to give us some final remarks on what we should take away. But don't forget to send me the email, to sign up over in the Facebook side of the house so that we can give away no less than 3 copies. And Lisa's already saying, yes, ma'am, it was an amazing experience. And she's referring to GGG. But make sure you get your comments over on the Facebook group so that we can give away these 3 copies of the book. Thank you so much, Samette.
I was saying, for those of you who don't get a book, the book can be found right on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, or I think even a couple online stores like Walmart and Target may have it. But I'd say if I had something I want you to take away, I'd say number 1, remember, it doesn't matter how big or small something is. It could be maybe a job that you thought that you weren't going to get, or an apartment or a car or a house. Faith is real. There's nothing too big or too small for God. Remember that no matter what people say, there is another report. There is another report. And understand, when we talk about faith, the word tells us we only need faith the size of a mustard seed. Some of us have bolder faith, but you don't always have to have a bold faith. You only need the size of a mustard seed to get God's attention. I was not in a position to reach out and touch the hem of his garment, but I think my faith reached out and touched him.
Oh my goodness, I love it. You are just amazing. And everybody doesn't need to know every detail, I think. And protecting that space is what she's talking about, guys. You got to protect your space. Samette, thank you. I knew it would be amazing. I was totally excited about this opportunity. Listen, I'm looking forward to more opportunities forthcoming. We're going to bring Debbie on the screen and maybe the next opportunity to talk about Kingdom Connections, okay? Because God has a plan, right, Debbie? Okay, yep. And we all are a part of it. Thank you for joining us today. Please be certain to visit our website, gcbnetwork.com. We're focused, determined, and intentional to put God back in business. We would love to welcome you as a member or a sponsor of our network. We need your support as we continue to move forward because the mountains are calling and we're going to higher ground. Take care. God bless you. Bye-bye now.